What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Striking Gold, your 49ers podcast on the Blue Wire Network. My name is Rob Lowder. That is Kyle Posey, and we are occasionally credentialed media covering the San Francisco 49ers. KP does that stuff too for NinersNation.com. Make sure you are checking that out on the daily. And here we are, man. Here we are. It is July 20th. I think the 49ers veterans report in what, 5 days? Is it the 25th? Is that the data? Am I correct?
It's 25 or 26. It's right around the corner.
Yeah, the rookies are already there. They're already getting their welcome to the NFL training camp moments. And the veterans are right around the corner. And so it's awesome. It's awesome. I'm just excited to be. This is just always such an exciting time of the year for me. I feel like, and I put it in our little YouTube description, to me, I've always felt like this is kind of the season starting. I know it's not football games, but it's just such an integral part of everything. You know, there's maybe the best way to describe it is it's meaningful football. It's things we want to hear about. It's new discoveries. It's competing. It's what did they do today? Maybe is the best way of saying it. You're getting almost daily new things, and training camp matters, and jobs are won, jobs are lost, rosters are improved, rosters are degraded, whether it's by health or whatever however you want to call it and how to describe it. It's just such an exciting time. Speaking of exciting times, kind of the talk of the town, I guess, is the Avengers Doomsday trailer came out. I made KP watch it right before we went live because one of the things, I was on my way home, was at my parents' swimming with the little guy all day. What are some of the most popular Avengers / Doomsday characters? What are the 40? It would be funny to do an entire episode of 49ers equivalents of we could have done, our whole episode could have been equating the 49ers to Avengers Doomsday characters.
Captain America.
Who's Thor on the 49ers roster?
Trent Williams.
Trent Williams is Thor. I like that. I like for aesthetics sake, I was going to say George Kittle because he kind of just looks, especially with the long hair, he just looks like he could step into Thor. But Trent Williams probably possesses the power of Thor, right?
No. That's where I went right away.
He is the hammer.
Strong. Yes. I thought when I think Captain America on the 49ers, it has to be Kittle in my mind, unless we're a very good director and we're just angling the camera and it's Christian Castro.
Right? Yeah, he's actually, it's like the Tom Cruise effect. He's actually short, but if we film it in a certain way, he's going to look massive. So, yeah, seriously. I mean, that's a good point. That's a good point. All right, I brought some. Okay, so in terms of the trailer, one of the big names on there is Professor X. Who would be the 49ers Professor X? Is that Kyle?
Yeah, it would kind of have to be.
Yeah, I mean the genius, the stubborn and passionate genius.
And I think can't stand when he's right.
Right. Now, obviously, he can walk, and Professor X can't walk, but we're not going that literal with it. Okay, who's Captain America on the 49ers roster?
I still think to me, I would vote Kittle.
Yeah, I think so.
The runner-up being McCaffrey. Maybe McCaffrey would be Vision for obvious reasons.
What are the obvious reasons that McCaffrey is Vision?
Running back, just the name. That's it. Like just a play on the name.
Okay, I get it. Oh, I get
There we
it.
go.
That
There
was
we go.
really good.
Welcome aboard.
That was a great job, KP.
Welcome,
Kyle Madsen would be proud. What about Tony Stark? That's a tough one.
Ooh, man.
You could have gone. Kyle could be Tony Stark too, but you can't have
Before
both.
last year, I would say Fred Warner.
Ooh, there you go. Okay, I like that. I like Cyclops. I don't know. Your All-American good boy. I guess that could be Brock Purdy.
That's Christian McCaffrey. There we go.
Okay. There we go. Who are
nerd?
Who are some other characters we could throw in there? Loki's kind of obscure. Like, not obscure. Obviously, he's one of the more popular characters, but I wouldn't have any idea who to plug in there. Yeah. So there's some fun equivalents to be made. That could have made an episode. I mean, no, that wouldn't make an episode. I think we just made the most out of it right now in these few minutes. That would be kind of dragging it out a little bit, but yeah, it's exciting times. It's been a while since I was really into Marvel stuff. It kind of just jumped the shark for me. It got a little ridiculous. It got a little cartoony. It got a little. And what's funny, I say cartoony, and I'm the Marvel thing I'm most into is the actual cartoon. But if it's a movie to me, I want it to. It's got to feel a little grounded, like find some way to make it feel real. And I feel like Marvel hasn't done that kind of in a little while. So, all right. Enough of the characters, I suppose. If you guys have any good, comparisons, just throw them into the chat. That would be fine with me. But what we're going to do today is we're going to set the expectations, man. It's just with the fact that I've always felt like training camp is kind of like, okay, here we go. It's like taking the first step on the journey of 2026. And I feel like with that being the case, you got to set expectations. And KP sent me a text this was a poll on Niners Nation, right?
Correct.
Do you have the results of that? Can you see what people are voting?
So as I didn't publish it until I sent you, like I published it right around like 12:30, 12:40. So you were the first. Congratulations.
Well, I mean, but you'd be able to see the results now, right? Would you be able to get on the website?
Like you mean just in real time?
Yeah.
Sure. Hold on.
Let's see. We don't have to tell people what they are yet, but
okay.
Here's what we'll towards the end of the episode. We'll say where the poll sits. Okay, so here's what
I didn't want it to be this for what it's worth. Just know that once we get there.
Why? What are you?
Because the point of the whole point of doing this, and I'm going to give it away here, was during the off season, all we do is talk about X athlete is in the best shape of their lives, or fans mostly, and players for the most part, because they're being asked these things. It's Super Bowl or bust this year, baby. And like that's the point of the episode that we're getting into, right? Is it possible to have a season where it's not going to be Super Bowl or bust and still be successful?
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a good point to make. Before we get into it though, this is awesome. Eggy, I think what's where we're going. Eggy 49ers. I don't want to slaughter that, but he said, finally I catch you guys live. Sadly, it's 3:24 a.m. here in Spain while I'm writing my master's thesis. Good for you, man.
Let us
One,
know
I'm glad you're here.
Is on.
Two, good for you for tackling your master's, man. I got a master's in education. That was like what I did. My first thing, once I found out that the military was going to pay for my education, once I got home, I was like, okay, let's do it all. So I got 2 credentials and a master's degree. So good to you, man. Good for you, man. I know that grind. I know what you're going through.
If you are from Spain, congrats on the cup.
Yeah, that too. Even more important. How do you write your master's thesis the day after your team just won the World Cup?
Maybe that's where it's coming from, right?
Can you write your thesis on what it takes to win a World Cup?
We'll find out.
I know. So, all right. So expectations. And again, here's the poll that KP put out to his crew at NinersNation.com. He said, he put it out on the site, not his crew. What does a successful 49ers season look like? And then the options are winning the NFC West, win at least one playoff game, an NFC Championship appearance, a Super Bowl appearance, winning the Super Bowl, or making the playoffs. And it's a great question. It's a great question because I've always been of the opinion that I get it. The goal, the overarching goal, everybody quest for 6, guys. Like I understand that the best you could possibly do every season is a Super Bowl. And the 49ers have come painstakingly close in the Kyle Shanahan era. One of them, I didn't feel like they should have won. I feel like they got beat. And then the other one, I felt like they should have won convincingly, and they found a way to hand it to the other teams. Both of them suck. Nobody wants to see their team lose a Super Bowl, but that doesn't necessarily mean it was a failed season. Like, you were one of 2 teams to be in it in the very end, out of 32. So I'm not trying to blow smoke. I'm not trying to look at things with rose-colored glasses, but I think that to act like every year the only way in which a team can achieve any measure of success, or to consider every year a failure when they don't win the Super Bowl, just seems like, man, that's got to be kind of a miserable way to live, right? You would just never be
exhausting.
It would be tough. KP, what are your thoughts on it, man? How do you go into each season? What are your expectations like?
I just hope everybody has a good time.
If I could slap you through the screen.
Progression is how I look at it, right? And we're going to talk about more of the individual aspect of this come Wednesday. But I want to see the rookies get better. I want to see the veterans they sign establish themselves as roles. I want to see Kyle Shanahan find out what works as the season goes along, and then come November, come December, have it all figured out. Maybe not at all figured out, but establish who gets the ball, when, and where. The DCs, I want to see them kind of play. Do I blitz here? Do I have this lineup in? Do I have this sub package in? So I want to see from September, and then come November, December, it looked like a completely different team. So I just want to see the evolution, the team evolve, and of course, wins go a long way in that. You want to see the success play out, but I do feel like, I know it's a bottom line business, but I do feel like too much focus is on the wins and losses week in and week out. And you can see that with social media. I'm sure with takeaway times, you can see that one week, after a loss, the sky is falling, the world is over, nothing ever will go right again. They're never going to win another game for the rest of the season. And then after a 3-game winning streak, sunshine and rainbows, can't tell me nothing. Everything's the best in the world. So I try to stay even keel with it. And try to avoid, the ups and downs that inevitably come with it. But yeah, I just want to see the evolution of the team.
There are few things as, I don't know, I don't want to say intense, but there are very few experiences like takeaway time after a loss, especially a loss that was like maybe, not necessarily, and where they underperformed, where they lost to a team that they weren't expected to, right? And the 49ers just seem like they always have at least one of those a year, where it was a team that maybe everybody had penciled in as a win, an easy win, and maybe it was supposed to be. Even when you got to that game, the 49ers still seemed like the early favorite, and they always find a way to give up one of those. But let's transition that. We're going to start with kind of how last season's expectations, did the team meet expectations last year? And then we'll transition to this year, because if you go back to last year, the expectations going through training camp and into the season were kind of like, I wouldn't say rebuilding was the right word, but everybody just kept coming up with these different RE words. Like, are they rebuilding? Are they retooling? Are they reloading? Are they, it was like, you could tell they just didn't want to say the word rebuild, because that just constitutes starting over. And I don't think the 49ers were doing that by any stretch of the imagination, but they cut a lot of key players. They got rid of a lot of key players. They lost like Deebo Samuel. They lost Dre Greenlaw. They lost Talanoa Hufanga, all these key players. And then they weren't, despite having a decent amount of cap space, they weren't very aggressive in free agency. But what they did do was re-sign a ton of their own players. Like, that was the offseason where it was Brock, Trent, and Brock. It wasn't Trent. It was Brock, George, and Fred, right? They did those 3 in one season. Yeah. So I always was kind of, I didn't jump on the 49ers case too much because they spent a lot of money. It was just on their own players, which is fine. So we went into that season. I can't remember specifically what my expectations were, but I know it was almost like, if they can get to the playoffs, I'd be impressed. And then as the year went on, it was like this roller coaster of, wow, they're actually kind of punching above their weight. Oh, there's one injury. Now they're in trouble. Oh, there's another injury. Now they shouldn't be able to really do anything. Brock Purdy's out. Why would they be able to win a game from here on out? And it like kept going up and down. They kept finding ways to impress me, to be honest. You lose Nick Bosa. Well, okay, this defense is going to be able to do anything. And yes, the defense took a huge hit. It wasn't as good, but they still found ways to do the damn thing. And then you lose Fred, and of course that's just like it's all done from here. And they still found ways, and the defense, obviously became a shell of itself, but it still found ways to be competitive. It still found ways to close out games. Even without those guys, it's like there's the Alfred Collins plays and stuff like that. Then you lost Brock. So I think my expectations going into last year was, let's just see if they can find a way into the playoffs. And then after that, it was like, man, I don't expect much, but they just keep finding a way to win. I thought for so many people, for Kyle Shanahan, for Brock Purdy, despite the injury, for Mac Jones, like last year was like in its own weird way, kind of like a masterclass for some people, just like, especially Kyle Shanahan. Like I put Kyle Shanahan in the thumbnail for this episode. And as I was putting the picture there, I was like, dude, I just think and this is kind of a different pod, but the 49ers are just so fortunate to have him. I just think he's an incredible head coach. I really do. Like top 3, top whatever you want to call it, top 1, I don't care. But I don't know, KP, how did last season feel for you? What were your expectations going in? And did they meet him? Did they exceed him? What were just your overall feelings?
I think of all the years where he's deserved recognition to win like coach of the year, it wasn't close where last year was his best performance.
Right.
And it's not so much wins, losses. Again, this needs to be in terms of the process where, think about it, they didn't have any of their good players, like any of their best players for most of the season. They're winning games with a backup quarterback. And I know Mac Jones is a former first rounder, but he was kind of a cast off. What? Not kind of a cast off. Like he was a cast off, and he's played on multiple teams as a first rounder, and they had to adjust what they do on offense. Not just because of the quarterback, because of the wide receivers too, because guess what? George Kittle wasn't on the field. Ricky Pearsall wasn't on the field. So for them to
Brandon Ayuk was speeding by the facility in a Tesla.
Nowhere to be found. So for them to be productive on offense and still find a way to score, and on top of all that, with that defense, like, come on, man. The defense was comfortably one of the worst in the NFL, and they were able to get by it. So I was very impressed with just how Kyle was able to kind of maneuver around, and I don't want to say manipulate, but essentially manipulate his way through games, and you could see it on the scoreboard. So a very impressive job by him. And that kind of ties into what I was saying earlier, where, okay, sure, like they had a winning record, but it felt like they were just punching so far above their weight class. It felt like they were going above and beyond what was expected, because the schedule was soft-ish down the second half, and you could tell, like toward the end of like the last game of the season, like they just had no business being there to begin with. So the fact that they were able to steal a game on the road against the Philadelphia Eagles, against the reigning champs, right, if I remember right, so that just kind of says it all about the 49ers and what they were able to accomplish last season. But now they come into this season with completely different expectations, because they did retool, and this is no longer a rebuild with getting all those injured players back, with adding Mike Evans, with adding Osa Digizua. So they're not going to have kind of the kid gloves leash kind of expectations that they had for much of last season, because again, like in Seattle in the divisional game, like nobody really expected them to win in that game, because we just watched what happened 2 weeks ago. But I just think it's completely different heading into this year.
Yeah. So you got to going back to your poll, I'm just to remind everybody, winning the NFC West, winning at least one playoff game. So like last season, an NFC championship appearance, a Super Bowl appearance, winning the Super Bowl, or just making the playoffs. Man, that is a tough question, because I feel like this team is comfortably better on paper at the start of training camp. We know how that goes for the 49ers. Such a big aspect of all of this is like health, like your expectations have to start for this team with staying healthy. Like that, if the 49ers, they've shown historically that if they stay healthy, they're one of, if not the best team in the NFL. You know, like I said, going back to that 2023 year where they should have won the Super Bowl, and I felt like they were the best team in the NFL. They just found a way to give it away. They were healthy, man, and they were all there in the show at the end. And part of the reason that a huge reason they didn't win that game was one of their star players tore his Achilles in the game. You know, and it was just such a cruel joke from that facet that despite an incredibly healthy season where almost all of their players played the majority of the year, you know, and that injury reaper still finds a way to find you in the big game. You know, it's pretty unbelievable. But when you're talking about this year, it all has to start with health, man. If they're going to compete, if they're going to, because this roster right now, I guess let's just start with this. The way it's constructed, I think that the expectations for me for this roster are a deep playoff run. Not first round. Second, we're losing in the second. It obviously depends on who you're facing. The matchups play such a key role. The seeding you achieved plays such a key role. You kind of have to work your way through the poll and establish like, okay, so probably the one that has to happen first. Well, okay, so let's start with winning the NFC West and making a playoffs. Where do you feel with those? Because those are not the same thing. Winning the NFC West says they're a top seed. If you've won the NFC West, something's happened with either the 49ers or the Rams and the Seahawks. You've found a way to beat both of them outright, straight up. Somebody's gotten hurt. You know what I mean? Like there has to be something significant in order for this 49ers team to win the NFC West. You've done that. You're in the playoffs and you're a high seed, so you're almost expecting to make a deep playoff push. So what do you think, man? What are your expectations for this team, and how does it, in relation to your poll, like what do you see them doing on that list?
I think expectations and defining success are a little different here. So I would say expectations would be to win a playoff game. I would say defining success would be make it to the NFC Championship. I don't think there's any way you can say a season is a failure. A season is thumbs down after making a championship game. But I mean, it can go a couple different ways, right? So let's say they do make the playoffs, they have a winning record, and they're able to, I don't want to say back their way into the dance, but it might not be an easier path because in the wild card round at NFC, tougher conference, you're probably going to have to go through 2-3 of the 5-6 best teams in the NFL, which is realistic what happens every year in the NFC, I would imagine, the past few seasons. So to me, I think if they're able to win a playoff game, that's going to say a lot about this team. But I do think, like realistically, there's I don't want to say a good chance, but the probability of them going relatively far in the playoffs will always be high in my mind based on everything ever pending health. So under Kyle Shanahan, this is a team who, like, they put themselves in a position often to make a deep playoff run. And I think that they've added the pieces that they've added that everybody knows by now. But I also think the depth is going to complement them as well. So again, like they have to stay healthy. They have to figure out some of the packages. They have to figure out, who's going to start here, where to play this player. Of course, you want, Brock Purdy to play every game. You want George Kittle to play every game, Christian McCaffrey, so on and so forth. But I do think it's realistic. And I feel like just the way that they match up, like the best teams in the NFC are all in the NFC West. Like if you just go down the top 5, 3 of them are in the NFC West. So naturally, the familiarity is going to play a factor. And I know there's a good chance that Aaron Donald's going to come back. I'm not saying that, Aaron Donald and Myles Garrett aren't going to, be a hard out, a difficult out. But at the same time, just the 49ers, they've beaten the Rams with Aaron Donald. They've played teams with Myles Garrett on the field, and they've won those games. So I think that the way that Kyle Shanahan has always matched up against Sean McVay, like that has to count for something, right? So come playoff time, and this is assuming that they're not going to have a bottom 5 defense like last year. They're going to be able to have real NFL receivers. They have a quarterback who can actually he's not going to stand back there. So I actually just rewatched the Seattle game because I'm just no brain cells. But anyway,
you have just lots of brain cells, KP.
Which
one? The playoff?
The playoff game, yeah.
Okay.
And the offensive line gets a bad rap for that game, and there were plenty of plays where they got pushed around. I'm not trying to make it seem like they didn't, but Brock Purdy had enough time, I would say, to make decisions but there was nobody for him to throw the ball to.
Right.
So now he has people to throw the ball to against that defense, against a defense that was legitimately one of the best in the NFL in the past 5 seasons. All things combined, like run defense, coverage, all those
things. Mike McDonald is absolutely Dr. Doom in our comparison scenario.
Great one. I love that so much. Yes. He is a mad scientist. He's a genius. So they could have been competitive in that game if they had one wide receiver who could separate. Now I think they have multiple. Now I think they're going to have Kittle in these situations. So I don't think,
a relatively healthy defense. Again, we're talking right now.
A defense that's good enough to punch back. Like they just had no answers.
Great way to put it.
So the fact that they'll be able to be competitive on that side of the ball, the fact that they'll be able to have a Nick Bosa rushing the passer, a Fred Warner to take away an area of the field so they can concentrate resources all over the place. I think that's going to go a long way for the 49ers, and I don't think that's being projected. So I'd lean them having a better chance than people give them credit for as of today to make the NFC Championship. So I would go anywhere winning a playoff game to making the NFC Championship is where I'm at right now.
Yeah, so let's work down your options. I think what might be the most impressive thing on this list, despite the fact that it does have to do with the playoffs, it's winning the NFC West. Like, obviously, that gets you into the playoffs. You're a top 4 seed. That means that a lot's going right. But to me, of this list, now, of course, winning the Super Bowl is the most impressive thing. It's just, when I look at this list and I look at winning the NFC West, and like you said, the top 2 teams in the NFC right now are the Rams and the Seahawks, in my opinion. So, and you can interchange them however you want to. They went toe-to-toe to go to the Super Bowl. And it was a great game, and the Rams gave the Seahawks everything they can handle both times. The part that we forget, though, and this is different because things were still fresh for Mike McDonald and the Seahawks, 49ers went into Seattle and they beat the Seahawks last year when most of their squad was healthy. And so I think it lends to your point. Like, if in the current 49ers roster construction, such a massive if I could hold up a sign that said if and just put it behind me, if this group stays healthy, I think that they can go toe-to-toe with both of these teams. And we saw the 49ers beat the Rams severely undermanned with a backup quarterback. And Rams are vastly improved. I'm not sure how much to make of Aaron Donald coming back. He's 35 years old, man. Like, he's one of the greatest defensive players or defensive linemen to ever play the game. It's like, but it's like, I don't know. I'm undecided on how intimidating I find that yet. Now, Aaron Donald,
if they win,
that's different.
It's probably going to be because their offense went nuclear again, and they got enough stops. But their defense was so bad last year that even after all these additions, they're probably going to regress closer to like average.
Right. So it's, to me, when I look at the list that you sent out, winning the NFC, it starts with, like, if they were to win the NFC West, then that just says, then the expectations completely shift to winning the Super Bowl. Maybe that's the way I'm trying to build it in my head. If they it starts with winning the NFC West. They win the NFC West, then the expectations have to be through the roof. Defining success, I think that you had a good point in kind of separating those two. But for this group, in my head, if you just threw it at me, like, hey, man, what's a successful season for this 49ers? I'd say winning a playoff game. And even then, that still feels, with the way the roster's currently constructed, that still feels a little short, a little shallow. Maybe with this roster, winning a divisional game is probably where I'm at. And again, I know everybody on the other side of the screen, the speaker, is saying, like, look, Rob, we've been almost enough, man. Like, we've been the bridesmaid enough times. The expectations have to be winning a Super Bowl. And I still agree with that. I still am that part of that's still in my brain. That Kyle Shanahan, and with this crew, with these group of players at the current age they're at, winning the Super Bowl is the only thing that matters to so many people in that building. And the one thing the 49ers are going to keep having in their favor that is only nullified by the other two teams in their division is they have so much playoff experience. Like, this roster has been there. They've done that. Nothing about the playoffs rattles them. That's why they were able to go into Philadelphia severely undermanned and win the game, because they don't care. Like they don't care. Like it's and Brock Purdy doesn't play weird in big games. He doesn't. We've never seen Brock really get weird. He seems perfectly accustomed to big games and big moments. I still have it up here. Warren Sharp in 2025, Brock Purdy was one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Went down late in the fourth quarter, and he posted another one that's. I retweeted it. Comeback Kings, best quarterbacks when losing in the second half. Brock Purdy is sixth. Right behind Caleb Williams, Josh Allen, Bo Nix, Jordan Love, and Matthew Stafford. So that's good company. So defining success for me, man, probably winning a divisional game, making it to the conference championship. And I understand, like, they're that close. Like, what do you mean, Rob? Like, we can't stop there. I'm not saying they should stop there. I'm just saying, like, what I would deem a success from this roster is somewhere around that neighborhood. Anything less than that, and you're like, damn, man. But again, the big if is everybody on the field when they do this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm thrown off. I'm in my background. I have like the Cubs game on, and George Kittle's there right now.
George Kittle is everywhere. He's
why?
omnipresent.
Yeah, why? He's there with like a big Bud Heavy shirt on, Budweiser shirt on. It's just the most random thing. Like,
where is
why
this
is
game
this person
at?
on my screen? In Chicago at Wrigley Field. And I feel like yesterday he was just at a game on the East Coast. So he's just taking a tour before training camp. Good for him. Sorry. Ask me the question again.
I mean, I didn't really ask you one. I just kind of ended my thoughts, and you just sort of like sat there like deer in the headlights. But you're just seeing George Kittle everywhere. He's at WWE games. He's at World Cups. He's at
baseball games in July.
He's everywhere.
What a life, man.
He does seem like he just has so much damn fun. And then you're also seeing clips of him, deadlifting 600 pounds or something?
Yeah,
I don't know what that was.
Working out during the morning, yeah.
Yeah, he just does everything. So, dancing around, and this is good. And Eggy had a good point. He's like, sadly, we don't have Daniel Brunskill to nullify Aaron Donald anymore, which is just it's just the funniest thing. Like, it's not necessarily reality, but he did really well against Aaron Donald. It was just some weird thing. Yeah, it's a sensitive subject with this fan base, man. Not in a bad way at all. I'm not poking fun at all. I'm not saying you don't have every right to be sensitive when it comes to this subject, but defining expectations and branching away from, they have to win the Super Bowl. Like, well, okay, sure. Do they? That's a tough reality to face for a group that's come this close. But the other thing, and I mentioned it earlier, is how much longer does this group have? You know what I mean? And what is the group? What is the group? How much longer does Fred Warner have? I don't know. How much longer does Trent Williams have? We know it's no more than 2 years. Brock Purdy's got plenty of time. That's part of that younger group. There's players. George Kittle. How many good years does George Kittle have? So there's a factor. There's an external pressure to this that is demanding the expectations be high. Like they don't have a choice. What would you constitute a failure of a season?
I mean, it seems simple, but not making the playoffs goes without saying. This roster should not have a losing record. Like there should not be a 2024 type of season.
That would be a losing record would be like without the big if coming into play, that would be pretty damn.
Head should roll. Like if this roster, what they put together, has a losing record, it's probably time for somebody to go. Whether that's John Lynch, it's probably not going to be Kyle Shanahan, but you would think like it would be time to move on from the GM after all these years. And you made the investments you did this offseason and you weren't able to take a step forward. You actually regressed after punching up in your weight class. That's what I would say. It would be losing record. I still think you have to make the playoffs, and then have to is a strong word because there are so many things that could happen, right? Some of these other teams, they might have a more favorable schedule. They might just get hot. One of these players are inevitably going to be better than they were last year, whether that's quarterback, wide receiver, running back, key position, pass rusher. So there's a lot of things, of course, there's a lot of things that could happen, but 49ers can only control what they can control. And that means if you break it down to 4-game sample sets or just, quarters and halves, You have to win more than you lose and go on a little streak, and you should put yourself in a position to come out ahead and make the playoffs.
Yeah, to me, not making the playoffs, that's below a failure. That's inexcusable. With the way this roster is constructed, with the talent you have on there, and again, you have to constantly keep reminding myself that this is kind of assuming the roster in its current state is still present throughout the season. Now if people start dropping like flies, like we've seen happen, if something similar to what happened last year happens this year, I'll knock on wood for you, then of course your expectations have to change. That's obvious. But with the way this roster is currently constructed, I think not making the playoffs would be inexcusable. A first round exit would be a disappointment for sure. It would just feel like they were a little bit better than that. And then you start to get into the realm of acceptable. You made it to the second round of the playoffs. You made it to the divisional round. Can you win that game and get to the NFC Championship? And then you're in the realm of acceptable. And I get it. It's not necessarily something we're celebrating. You're still in the end. It's like Brad Pitt in Moneyball. He says, "Man, if you don't win the last game of the season, nobody gives a shit." And that you're still in that realm. Like if you're not winning the last game of the season, if you're not winning the Super Bowl, no one gets to leave happy. But that's still, people don't get fired for the most part for performing that well. Now, Sean McDermott of the Bills, like apparently they just got tired of that whole show. But it's tough to lose jobs when teams are consistently fighting late in the playoffs, is what I'm saying. But to some people, that's just not going to be enough. To some members of this fan base, that's just not going to be enough. And I can't blame them. I'm not necessarily in that realm of the Super Bowl or bust crowd, but I certainly don't necessarily at this point with what John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan have done. I certainly wouldn't blame them. So let's look at your. Why don't you walk us through your poll results that you sent me? Tell us where your Niners Nation fan base is at.
Okay, so as of 30 minutes ago, I should say, only 1% said a successful season would be winning the NFC West. 10% said winning at least one playoff game. I'm going to skip around here. 7% said a Super Bowl appearance. 4% said making the playoffs. 34% said making the NFC Championship, an NFC Championship appearance. And 44% said winning the Super Bowl.
So if the 49ers don't win a Super Bowl this year, they did not have a successful season. Now, there's still some truth to that, like I guess, but that's just not necessarily. I just don't think of it as that black and white,
Right.
But
it feels so reductive, and I know, right? Like that's the end game for everybody.
Right.
Browns fans probably feel like they can win the Super Bowl too, but like that's just not realistic.
Well, and again, the 1%, I get it. You can only vote on one thing. But again, I just keep coming back to the winning the NFC West. Maybe that's what's the words I'm looking for here? It would just mean this team it plays into the other options. If you've won the NFC West, obviously you're making the playoffs. So those two go together. But if they've won the NFC West, then that just means that this team is much better than I expected it to be. And again, it could mean that Matthew Stafford's clone got hurt, and that he wasn't able to continue to play. And the echo, whatever the adamantium chamber that they bring to training camp wasn't able to save him. Maybe something else happened with the other teams, but it also means the 49ers were just that damn good.
Yeah,
to me.
Yeah, to interrupt you real quick, I don't think so. I don't think it has to be the Rams taking a step back. I don't think it has to be the Seahawks taking a step back. I think it just could be things falling the 49ers' way, right? Their core players, they're all pro players, which there are a handful of, stayed healthy and produced like all pro players. The ball bounced their way, right? There's always regression, whether it's one score games, whether it's fumble luck, just the ball bouncing their way. There's so many things in football where the difference between 11 and 12 games and 8 and 9 games is just really the ball bouncing your way. And that could just be a special teams bounce, not to bring up any memories and bad memories for people, but there are so many different aspects in the game of football where like a game can just flip on its head, a possession. So I really don't think it would take some superhuman performance for 17 games for the 49ers to win the NFC West. I really don't.
No, I think that's a good point, man, because if you kind of zoom in on a season and you realize that every game you begin, you have a chance to win. You know what I mean? Like like you said it already. It's every game has a chance to get weird. Every game's, it doesn't matter who the favorite is. You have a shot. So, and when you get into the playoffs, we've seen so many times where just some weird luck and freak plays, big plays, star players making big plays, but they're still low percentage plays. There's so many things played into it. Yeah, the Robert Newton Lowder IV said chemistry and momentum. Momentum is such a
my favorite
word. It is, man. It's like, and I feel like it doesn't get talked about it enough in games, in seasons. Like momentum is just absolutely everything. Like the crowd changes favor. The quiet people get loud, the loud people get quiet, and players get in their own heads. Momentum is just something else. You start to gain confidence. You start to, it's just, I've always just felt like momentum does not get talked about enough. It's crazy. It's crazy. Eggy said, you mentioned already, since 2019, we got greedy and or set the level as baseline. We also live off the past a bit, including me, because we think our elite players who are old are still elite, and we don't take into consideration their age that are getting old. Well, the one thing I would say, it's not really a pushback, but what old players on the 49ers that we used to consider elite are no longer elite? I think Trent's still there. He's old as hell in football years, but he's still there. Fred is older, but he's not old. He's still elite.
Running back years, Christian McCaffrey is.
Yeah, and Christian McCaffrey would probably be.
Christian
McCaffrey still has elite elements of his game. Yeah. He might not be an elite pure running back at this point.
I think he's treated like an elite player, which makes him elite, is a better way to put it. Like teams respect him like he's an elite player, and I think that's what really matters.
And maybe, to Eggy's point, maybe this is the last year where we consider maybe some of these players, depending on how they play, cease to become elite, and that changes the expectations moving forward. We'll see what we see from Trent Williams this year. We'll see what we see from Christian McCaffrey.
There's also the other side of the coin, right? Where Ricky Pearsall stays healthy, where Michael Williams performs like a top 11 pick, where Alfred Collins takes the step forward that they need the former top 50 pick to take a step forward. You could do that with a couple other players like Renardo Green. Maybe he's like just peaks for even a month and a half, like CB1. Maybe he regresses to a CB2. Well, there are enough players on the roster where they have the peaks, and there's going to be valleys, where they perform well enough, and that's good enough for the 49ers to go on a little run and build that momentum.
Is Nick Bosa still elite?
Yes.
Yeah, a healthy Nick Bosa. Now, again, coming up third ACL tear, he still has to go out there and do it. But yeah, it's good. See that guy in person, man. just see him in person. You're like, whoa! I didn't know they made human beings like that. Yeah. But Eggy, I get your point. He's basically saying he's like, at some point that regression is going to come for a lot of these players, and
no doubt.
That's probably what makes expectations and what we define as a success just a little bit higher and a little bit more dire. It's true because it rhymes. For this group, like they only have they're right at the edge, and that just puts more pressure on the front office, because they realize that we knocked it out of the park at the early part of our tenure, but now we got to do it again, and we're got to keep doing it, and that's what separates great teams from consistently great teams from momentarily great teams. I think a lot of teams flash quickly and they work their way into positions quickly, and they might have some success. They might have a Super Bowl, but you have to be able to keep doing it. Like I think it was in The Last Dance where Michael Jordan, no, it was his coach. It was the coach. He said, Phil Jackson, he said, like, we had a thing with this group, especially a group that was winning as much as they were. Like, you are only a success the moment you achieve that successful act. Like, you are only a success the moment you win a Super Bowl. And once that moment is over, you are no longer a successful team. You have to do it again. So like, say the Seahawks, like, obviously they are the reigning Super Bowl champions, but that Super Bowl is over. The trophy's sitting there. It's already got a little bit of dust on it. And that doesn't, point being, you got to go do it again. Like if you want to be considered a success, you got to do it again. Or, so it's the 49ers are at that point where, they've done a lot of great things, but they're going to have to find a way, specifically this front office, to continue to do great things. And they haven't, last couple drafts have some promise, but there was that time there where, 22, 23 ish, where it was rough, man. It was rough. So all of that lends itself to expectations and what we consider a success. And like I said, to Eggy's point, these players that are elite now they're not going to be elite forever. So you got to do it, or you're not going to do it. At least that's kind of the way I look at it. Why don't you got any closing thoughts here, KP?
No, I mean it's fair just because like it makes sense why you'd be a little reserved, right? Because of a lot of the history, and at some point, like you said, regression, father time, he's going to come for some of these players. Not some of these players, like most of their great players. But I think at the same time, man, there's like as long as Kyle Shanahan's at the helm, like I would always lean toward the other direction. Like I there's plenty of reason to be optimistic with Kyle Shanahan running the show, and he's going to put, like we saw last year, his players in a position to excel, not just succeed, but excel. And when those players, like who are on the roster, like a Pearsall, like a Mike Evans, and then on the other side of the ball, like Raheem Morris, I think Raheem Morris is going to be a pleasant surprise for a lot of people. People remember the Raheem Morris who is on the sideline, who has no idea what to do in 2-minute situations. As long as he doesn't have to control the clock, Raheem Morris is a tremendous coach. He does not have to worry about that. Now he's a defensive coordinator.
And Kyle Shanahan isn't that much better at it.
Nope, not saying he is. Not saying he is. And I mean, it makes sense, right?
But at least it ain't his job anymore.
Sure. So I think Morris getting to focus on what he does best, not well, but best. He's very good at his job. We've seen him win Super Bowls. So I think it's a good addition for the 49ers, getting a DB mind with a secondary that has historically struggled. So there are a lot of things in my mind that point to another playoff run. And when I say that, maybe it's one game, maybe it's 2 games, but I think they're going to be in a position to make a run. And I think that's the best way to look at this.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good way to close it off. And what we're going to do on Wednesday, we're going to take the macro view of what our expectations were for this 49ers team, and we're going to micro it. We're going to zoom in a little bit. We're going to talk about individual players. What's a successful season for probably the bigger players. We'll kind of have to move our way through the roster. But what's a successful season for Brock Purdy, Mike Evans, Ricky Pearsall, Christian McCaffrey is a big one. A lot of the guys on the defense. So it'll be a fun conversation to have. So we're setting the opposite expectations from a team perspective right now, and then on Wednesday we're going to kind of dive into the roster and set expectations player by player. We'll kind of just cruise through the roster. Yeah. Okay. Aggie, one last thing. Yeah, I agree. Mr. Lowder's right. Draft is crucial. You have to have hits because Shanahan has had bad seasons when having bad teams. Thus draft is crucial. Yeah. The 49ers have they've had a weird relationship with the draft. It's a little odd. Obviously a lot of this roster is homemade, but they've gotten to a point where they're having to rely on external stuff a little bit more than I'd like them to. But anyways, appreciate you guys for hanging out, man. Good group throughout the entire episode. Appreciate everybody who was partaking in the chat and helping expand the conversation. We appreciate you. Again, if you're on Apple Podcasts, or I was about to say iTunes again, like an old man. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and you want to come hang out on YouTube, man, come subscribe on YouTube. Anybody in here right now, if you're not always subscribed, make sure you're subscribing. Make sure you like the stream. That helps it grow, so we keep moving right along. If you're on the podcast side of things, please leave us a 5-star review. We would greatly appreciate it. I think that's it. Again, we'll be on here Wednesday, same time, talking about our expectations for individual players. So appreciate you guys again. You already know what it is. For another episode, that's KP. I'm Rob. This is Striking Gold, and we are signing out.